That's a great question, and it totally depends on what you're looking to purchase. So in Wellington City, kind of the cheapest option is usually apartments, and they're, let's just say for conversation's sake, about 500,000. So the typical deposit is a 20% deposit, and with a $500,000 house, that would be 100,000. But that can change depending on your circumstances. You can get lower deposits and sometimes they need to be higher. For example, if you were purchasing with the intent to use the property as an investment, then the deposit is likely about 40%. So to summarize, the cheapest you could probably get yourself into a property is about $100,000 for an apartment, and circa $200,000 for a standalone home is sort of the basic rule. Everyone chooses an agent in a very different way, and luckily for all the sellers out there, there are lots of different real estate agents and they all have drastically different personalities. So I think it's really important to work with someone who you feel comfortable around, who you feel you can trust, and someone that you feel is going to do a good job out there speaking to buyers and selling your property, of course. So I think, one of the main things I'd be looking for when an agent is in the living room is to make sure you've got, a good rapport with them and you can tell that they'll be respectful and do a good job of selling your house. And then obviously checking up on their background, seeing that they've got some history out there, maybe even checking up on some of the past results they've had, and all those kind of things can be good. If you've got a busy life and making it to a Sunday open home can be a little bit difficult for you, then I think one of the things that a lot of buyers, especially younger buyers, don't know is you can just reach out to an agent and ask for a viewing during the week. Obviously, this is our full-time job, so we're always available to show people through. And sometimes if you've got multiple listings with one company that you want to go have a look at, you could reach out to the agent ahead of time, tell them kind of the list of houses you want to go view, and then that agent can organize the times with the other listing agents if they're not all listed by the same person. And then that person can kind of do a lot of the admin for you, and then you just go around to each one with them and you can kind of block out a few hours in a day that you've got available and go visit them all at the same time. Buying a first home is such a personal thing for everyone, and so everyone will go about it a very different way. But a lot of people looking for their first home can be looking for something that feels perfect and feels right for them, which is just natural for us to want to do. We want to be in a space that we really enjoy. And I'm not saying you should purchase something that you don't like, but I think a lot of people get really caught up in kind of trying to create that perfect home. But oftentimes your first home is a way to get on the ladder and a way to start to see some capital growth and just get exposed to the market. And so I think people need to take a different approach and actually look at it as more of an investment and as a business decision as opposed to just a place that you feel comfortable. Because what is important for a first home is buying in an area that's going to hold and go up in value would be ideal. And looking for the best possible property for you at that stage in life. I think typically for first home buyers in Wellington, you've got kind of a few options. If you want to be in the city, if you're working in the city and you want to be as close as possible, then an apartment is often the easiest way to get your foot on the ladder in Wellington. But obviously the further out you go, the more prices drop. So houses, standalone houses out in Johnsonville, Newlands and places like that, Lower Hutt, can often be more comparable to the prices of apartments in the city. Obviously apartments are still a little bit cheaper if you're looking at kind of the same floor area, but certainly cheaper than here in Wellington City. The other option for first home buyers to look at is something like a 2-flat property or a home and income. So the difference there is a 2-flat property will usually be 2 flats of a similar or comparable size, whereas a home and income is often a bigger unit and a smaller unit. Sometimes it's 3 bedrooms and 1 bedroom or something along those lines. And the great thing about a home and income is when you purchase it, you can live in the income part of it yourself and rent out the home. And then as you build equity, you could maybe transition into the home part and rent out the income, or end up just renting out the whole thing if you found another place you wanted to live. My strategy for my first property purchase when the time comes is I want to buy an investment property, which will be a higher deposit. But the reason being is I think getting myself into an investment property that I own and I'm getting income off and living in an apartment will be the best option because I don't need a whole home for myself. I really only need kind of a smaller space. And so that would mean I have some income coming off of that could hopefully pay for my rent at the apartment. And it means I'm still kind of separate from that asset. Well, the first step on the journey of buying your first home is saving, because obviously you need, quite a large amount of cash to get yourself into any kind of property. So that's certainly the first step. But I think once you've got the money out of the way, you want to go to a mortgage broker. Mortgage brokers are essentially free of charge to you because they actually charge the bank. And they're able to go out there to multiple banks and shop around and find the bank that's going to work best for you. I often find people find it far easier to get a mortgage when going through a mortgage broker as opposed to going to the banks themselves. So I think that would be one of my first steps. And then probably getting in touch with an agent, letting them know what you're looking for. Getting in touch with multiple agents at multiple different companies is a good idea, because often companies have quiet listings or off-market listings that aren't known to the public. So that's good to get their opinion on if there's anything out there. And then, just start doing your research, start going around to open homes, reading through the info pack, reading through the builder's report, finding out, if this place sold for a little less, why was that? Was it because of the location? Was it because of work that needed to be done? And just really starting to get a feel for things. And that can be kind of 3 months to a year of just looking, just doing research and figuring stuff out. And then once you feel confident that you know what you're looking for and the right thing comes up, then it's just putting in an offer and hoping for the best.